Hey everyone, welcome back to Digitally Twisted Games. I'm going to go over an article and a subject that everybody's been talking about a lot, but certain aspects of it I think have not been entirely touched on. Biggest thing is the ownership of digital games is not a factual thing. You don't really own anything that's digital. You can't resell it. I mean, you could try to like make a copy of it, download it maybe, but generally you really just don't own it. People have like mixed feelings about, used game stores. I think there's EB Games. Obviously, GameStop is always in the news for one thing or another. And then there's others like smaller stores. Like there's a comic book shop that's near me that sells used games that I don't think anybody ever buys. But one of the biggest things too, I think we all remembered, and as we move further and further away from physical game copies, is that we've lost the right to physically own these things. And with that has come consequences because it can just be taken away. A comparison that another YouTuber made today as I was listening to them driving down the road was that cars are seen to be the next thing. Like with Uber and Lyft, and then you've got these self-driving cars through like Waymo and others. The stage has been set for anything and everything that we've taken advantage of or taken for granted to be stripped away. Like when I was a kid, I mean, not even that long ago, getting a car was still seen as a sign of adulthood. It still is in many cases. But with the cost of just everything rising, the cost of ownership of a car, insurance, gas, inflation going way out of control, less and less people are actually owning things. And unfortunately, I think this generation is being slowly trained, especially through streaming, to really pay for things that they'll never own and get used to never owning anything. Get used to never owning property, never owning a car, really just nothing. Except maybe the clothes on their back and whatever they have digitally stored on their phone. And this is a early warning sign. There's been others. There's been tons of others. I know Steam basically says that you don't really own anything. They can strip it away at a moment's notice, which I always had a problem with. But, I mean, it was just kind of stripped from our choice to really whether or not we had a choice between owning physical games or digital games. Steam just kind of stripped that choice away from us. The big hubbub about this is that Ubisoft basically said, hey, these games are not going to be accessible. And when a huge uproar came up about it, everybody called them out, and then they backpedaled. And then they were saying, oh, well, we weren't really meaning, like you couldn't play them at all. We just meant multiplayer access and online DLC and other stuff. But in reality, I don't think that's honest. And I think a lot of other YouTubers have called them out for that. That they really were just kind of testing the waters, and we're just going to maybe not even testing the waters, but just seeing what they could get away with and seeing that they, we're going to take these games away because nobody's really playing them. We don't really care. We don't think anybody would care, but it turns out people care a lot because you spend money on these things and then a company just decides, hey, I'm just going to shut it off and you don't get to use it anymore. That's obviously wrong. And my comparison earlier with like digital games and cars, yeah, I think one day as more and more companies try to push these self-driving cars are safer, they're better, they're going to be better for you. You don't need to own a car. Let's just let us drive for you. Well, the problem with that is that these companies will basically turn the switch off whenever they want to. Okay, if anything that the COVID lockdowns show people is that once you put yourself at the mercy of a government or a company, you're done. They're going to make you basically 100% dependent upon them, like as if you were a baby. You're helpless. So if they get mad at you, you don't do what they want to do, you don't buy that platinum membership with the monthly fee. And don't think for a minute that just because an Uber or Lyft might be cheaper now, or a self-driving car might be, beneficial now and cheaper, that's not going to change. There is not going to be enough Waymo self-driving cars to get everybody where they need to go on a daily basis from point A to point B. And that's a truth they do not want to tell you, and they don't want you thinking about. Think about the chaos of it. Maybe if you live in a fantasy world inside of a very tightly packed city, and you're capable of like surviving on a block because you got your apartment, you got your job downstairs as some kind of janitor or manager, and then the superstore that you buy your groceries from till the day you die happens to be just like 500 feet down the road. But most of us, we don't live in that kind of bubble. And yeah, you can kind of catch a ride with your friends, but your friend doesn't want to take a ride. Oh, take public transport. Have you seen the state of public transport? You all of a sudden think that just because you strip away your rights even more, that you're suddenly going to go on, like, you're suddenly going to go on a grand adventure whenever you want, or that pouring everything and pulling full support and full dependency upon public transport is suddenly going to have all this money flood in and make it better? The government and these private companies can't even get public transport running efficiently with barely anybody using it, or with like reasonable amount of people using it. Now imagine all this public transport with everyone using it. It's going to be chaos. I've already predicted that the elite are going to still operate their own cars, and they're going to have flying cars. And if you think I'm just talking out my butt and talking crazy, look up a company called Archer and Joby.
Archer?
They're already developing vertical lift vehicles. And they have like AI controlled, artificial intelligence controlled, like little propellers on each part of the, all around the vehicle that allows it to pick up and take off. That's not going to be a common person's thing. And rich elite people, they like to have fun. You ever seen the people out there with like lots of money that drive like your Aston Martins? I saw one today. I saw a Corvette. I think it was a Corvette ZL1. That's a very expensive car. Heck, I got a Hellcat. That's not a cheap car. All sorts of stuff. Like most people who are elites, managers, people like, lots of money, they don't always want to be driven around. They want to go drive cool, fun things. So do you really think they're going to be like down at the bottom of the streets, riding around in your little public transport, self-driving cars? No. They're going to be up in the skies, leaving you guys stuck down there below at the mercy of their company's self-driving vehicles, which are trashed out, look nasty. Like, for instance, go in a taxi cab, go in a public transport bus, go in a public transport train. That's going to be what it looks like across the board, because they're not going to be able to replace everything consistently to make it nice and clean. Once you stop owning things, the quality of your life is going to plummet. So, where is all this coming from? No ownership, nothing. Let's not forget about the crazy WEF, the World Economic Forum, run by this lunatic wearing a spacesuit. Good old Klaus Schwab, Mr. Captain Communist of you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You're not going to be happy if you don't own anything. You're going to be miserable, especially when you're forced to do things you don't want to do. And a lot of people like to forget this fact. During the lockdowns, you were forced to stay at home. You were forced to stay off public roads that you paid with your tax dollars. You were forced to put this mask over your face. You were forced to stay away from family. You were forced to stay away from school. You didn't have a choice. And oftentimes if people tried to push back, they were punished. Myself and hundreds, if not thousands of others of Californians tried our best to get rid of our governor who took it too far. And at the end, he used all the taxpayers' money to get himself out. So if you think that giving up all your rights to own things is going to make you happier, you're not. And beware of the people around you that do want that. The people that just have no ambitions in life. They just don't care. They just like, whatever. Because they're going to drag you down with them. So in this giant, long-winded rant, we might have to figure out a way to, us gamers, to own our digital copies. Something I thought might be possible is a serialized digital copy. I think they're already just digital serialized, but something that says that we own this game, that we'll be able to resell on a digital market to other people for a lower cost. I can only imagine the problems that would create, but at the rate we're going, I think these companies are going to burn us, take advantage of us. Self-driving cars, all the people, the Klaus Schwab types are just going to want to pigeonholed inside a tiny little apartment stuffed away that we have no rights. All right. Anyways, hey guys, thanks for stopping by. This is going to be a rant video. I just want to kind of go off on a tangent and talk about my ideas, my feelings about it, because I think we need to have this discussion. There's definitely enough of us who are very much aware. I don't want to use the word awake or woke. Red pilled may be more accurate, but even then, that's kind of a meme. A lot enough that are educated enough and aware enough and are realistic enough to realize that we don't want to give up our freedoms. We don't want to give up our properties. Okay. We want to be able to be self-sufficient and self-mobile and not be tightened down to a company like Google or Klaus Schwab's WEF or whoever else is trying to control us, what we're doing. All right, everyone. Play your games. Have fun. I'll see you next time.